Hello and welcome to Slow Motion Broadcasting's coverage of the Spec-5 World Tour. We are on race number 3 here for Season 10. In the commentary booth, we've got Alex Andersen and Randall McGrew. For some reason, we have just lost Alex. Hopefully he comes back here in just a second. Actually, he's back right now. Hello. But in the production, me, Adam Thompson. Alex, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, so I do apologize about that. I disconnected myself for a second, but we are here for round 3 of Season 10 of the Spec-5 World Tour. Hopefully Adam took the difficult part of my job away for me, and we're going to get straight into the track facts for you tonight. Actually, quick fun fact that isn't on the notes that I have for this. VIR, Virginia International Raceway, was actually the second track iRacing ever scanned, and we have been with this version ever since, so this is really a really old track for iRacing itself, but Virginia International Raceway has a history in 2 halves spanning almost 60 years. From its origins as a sports car course in the 1915s to its resurrection as a country club-style multi-purpose venue, VIR, as it is commonly known, has long been considered one of the toughest courses to master, I can't speak today, in North America. From initial success to decline and abandonment for a quarter of a century, the circuit proved too good to be left to pasture and reopened following some extensive renovations in 2000. Since then, it has gone on to host some of the most prestigious road racing events in the USA, currently including the WeatherTech IMSA Sports Car Series, GT World Challenge America, Moto America, and the SCCA runoffs. The track also features full resort facilities, including 3 hotels, several restaurants, and activities such as karting and skeet shooting. And we're here for the virtual version, quite literally the definition of an oldie but a goodie here on the virtual Virginia International Raceway. And really, this is going to be probably one of the most interesting races on the calendar here as we take an on-board lap from, I believe this is Joshua Soto. I could be wrong here. No, this is Soto, the 135 car. So through turn 1 he comes, and you'll see that just the way you have to drive this track just off of Soto's onboard is absolutely insane. Through turn 3, into turn 3, known as the NASCAR bend, he's going to head down a short chute into turn 4A, known as the left hook, then into turn 4B here, which is this little right hand flick, then into turn 5A and turn 5B, which is that little chicane. Turn 6A and turn 6B are pretty much the same thing as these little switchbacks here, also known as snake. Then you're going to come under the VIR bridge here, heading up the straight. Now you got a couple of windy corners, which should be full throttle in these cars. We'll see what Soto does here. Over the curbs, nice and careful here. Through a turn, he's going to head into turn 10, which is probably the only one that these guys have to lift a little bit for. You see Soto drops it down into third gear to engine brake it up towards Oak Tree, which actually, if you see that big oak tree, this corner is known as Oak Tree because of that corner on the right. A bit of real life news. That tree was cut down by lightning, I do believe, so they are planting another one. It's called the son of the oak tree. Now we're going to call it Oak Tree for just the easiness' sake. Now they head down the back straight here. This is a long straightaway that's uphill. You're going to see some insane drafting opportunities for these guys when they come up this hill. And then it heads a little bit down into what is known as roller coaster. 3 turns of absolute insanity. You got to throw it in there, get to the left side, throw it down into first gear from top speed, bring it down the hill through turn 15, then towards Hog Pen, which is 16A, I do believe. Yep, 16A and 16B, known as Hog Pen. Then the final corner, turn 17, full throttle from here on out, back down the pit straight. And what an incredible lap that is to go around, Randall.
Yeah, this is really a driver's track. The version they have here on iRacing is still the older, narrow version, so it kind of chokes some of the passing opportunities, but there's still plenty of room in these little MX-5s. So you look to see some big moves going into roller coaster and going into turn 1.
Yeah, here's we take a look at our provisional pole sitter, Rui Coimbra. And just speaking of the narrowness, just look at that as they head up the hills. That's going to be a single file, full throttle area, say for when you get to turn 10. And these guys, for some of them, it might not be so easy for them to stick to single file here. But look at this open class driver, way above anybody else in the other open class. This is Sean Hayes in the 94 car. We saw him with some incredible performances in the last few seasons. You think he can top it up here today as well?
Sean Hayes always seems to perform at driver's track, so I'm not surprised to see him high up there in the leaderboard. He's my favorite for open class victory.
Yeah, definitely, but don't count out the man. In second here, Charles Vaccaro, who won last week. It appears he isn't on track right now, but currently set to start 13th. And I mean, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say he's not great at qualifying, but I would definitely say he is a lot better in the race. So watch out for that 164 car in this race. Oh, as it appears Jose Gonzalez, who's starting right behind him at the moment, overshot that corner just a tad, just overshot turn 1 here, which actually, that's known as the horseshoe. Wanted to get that corner name right. Into the NASCAR bend, Jose Gonzalez comes. See if we can go on board, see what he's doing around this track, and see if it differs from any of the pro class drivers here as he heads through the left hook and into 4B here, then into turn 5 and towards Snake here. Looks like he's in lower gears all around, just trying to be as smooth as possible. Looks like he's eating up the curves a good bit more than Soto was. Under the VIR bridge he comes, and towards turn number 7. It looks like he got quite a bit towards the left a bit more there through this full throttle section, just really eating the curves there, onto the grass a little bit. Now he's going to flick it down, I would assume. Oh no, he stays in 4th there, unlike Soto who would stay in 3rd there. Now braking into turn 11 and heading towards Oak Tree here. Gets a pretty nice run through it. Probably could have gone out a little bit wider there, but through Oak Tree, you just see how much he has to crank that wheel to get it to turn there. Then down the back straight, but real quickly, I want to pass my attention to a driver that I have never seen before who has just taken provisional pole here. I'm not sure who that is. This is Scott Keane, whom I have never seen here in the Spec-5 World Tour, but doing a really good job for himself in what I want to say is his first start here.
And it looks like he's got exactly what plants crave, even though he's keeping it on the gray stuff. setting a very good lap time, just almost 1/10 ahead of Rui Coimbra for the pole.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to say that Rui Coimbra is easy to beat, but that is one heck of a gap between first and second here. And I mean, that's just a really good job at the moment done by this driver. We'll see if he can improve it at all in what I believe is his first start here as he heads towards Oak Tree. A bit more twitchy on the wheel than most other drivers. Gets it way out wide, gets a nice exit here onto the back straight, and just look at that straightaway up ahead. It just looks like it goes on forever, and the drafting opportunities down here are going to be wild.
And you heard as he come out of Oak Tree, he had to feather the throttle just a little bit, so he's a little greedy in applying the throttle. Had to back off of it just a little bit. That will definitely cost him time down the straightaway. But in a race situation, you can make that time back up with a draft. But you still really need to get an excellent run out of Oak Tree to have a passing opportunity going into roller coaster. The really interesting thing about the braking zone for roller coaster is that it's uphill. So you can use the compression on the front end from going up the hill to help you brake and brake even later. So it's going to be a real game of chicken whenever you go to pass somebody to set up for roller coaster.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, one of my favorite things about road course racing is braking contest into sharp corners, and that's exactly what we're going to get into roller coaster. But the final 2.5 minutes of qualifying are underway. It looks like Scott Keane is going to get one more lap to try and improve on his time while everybody is done. And it looks like Joshua Soto, in the midst of that, shot himself up into third. But currently, we're going to head to a pre-race interview while we stay on board with Scott Keane so you can see what he's doing around this track. But we've got a pre-race interview here for Jerry DiPiero. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, man. And I mean, I do believe you are in this race, if I am not mistaken. Yes, you are.
Yes,
so
yes.
yeah, so you're not setting a quality time. I thought that was a
I'll go ahead and take this one, Alex. Jerry,
Okay,
I'm going to go ahead and ask you why you haven't set a qualifying time yet.
Yeah, did you see my practice times?
Well, I mean, you never know. Starting from the back here, this is a pretty draft-heavy track, Jerry. So are you thinking about maybe trying to gain some positions, and where are the best passing opportunities here around VIR?
Exactly. That's what I'm going to try to do. Start from the back. I haven't done this in a while. This is a great group of guys, and I don't want to really get in their way. So I'll try to pick off as many as I can. As far as passing, there's quite a few corners. But it's kind of tricky. I'm just going to try to keep it between the white lines, Adam.
Well, there you go. But I have noticed here the white lines are kind of, I guess, they're a suggestion on how to drive this track. We've been seeing a lot of drivers kind of chop over a lot of these curbs, especially through the roller coaster and stuff like that. How do you think? How do you think that's gonna work on the car? Are you worried about damage over some of these high curbs, or do you think these Miatas can take it?
No, they can take it. It's just going to be, as far as incidents go, people are going to have to be careful. There's going to be some incidents.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jerry, thank you so much for a little bit of the pre-race stuff, but we'll go ahead and let you get back. You're about to grid here in about 30 seconds, so good luck, Jerry, and we'll keep an eye on you.
Thank you.
All right, Alex, you can have it back.
Yep, thank you, and I do appreciate you for taking that over. But that was Jerry DiPiero, who I do believe is in his first start here tonight, so we're going to have to make sure to keep an eye on him. I would honestly say he's going to shoot through the field here. I mean, qualifying, not a lot of driver's strengths, and some of these guys can really turn it on when it comes race time.
That's right, and as Jerry mentioned, there will be incidents here, so if he can keep the nose clean, he can get some easy positions early in the race, for sure.
Looks like Lee Martin won't be able to finish that lap that he was on there. And we're going to take you through our starting grid. And Scott Keane, what I believe is his first start, the Pennsylvanian there, takes pole with a 2:09.406. Rui Coimbra just barely under a tenth behind him there in second. Soto, in his first qualifying attempt of the season, ends up third. Then it's Ronnie Coates in fourth, David Staub in fifth, Sean Hayes, the first open driver, way in front of any other open class competitors there in sixth. Mitchell Peak in seventh, Scott Keane in eighth. Oh, I think that's a bit of an error on my end. It says Scott Keane is in eighth for me. I'll take a look at my results for you guys. So it does have him twice there. I'm not sure what that is, but we're gonna keep going. Tom Rath is in 9th. Lee Martin is in 10th. Jordy Fike in 11th. Otis Adams Jr. in 12th. Then a bit further back in 13th. we have, if the overlay works, there we go. Charles Vaccaro, the second open class driver winner last week. You're going to want to look out for him there in 13th. Jose Gonzalez right behind him in 14th. Tom Athan, another open class driver there in 15th. Jedediah Babinek, not usual for him to be that far back there, but it is a driver's track here at VIR. Back there in 16th. Sean Ruiz, I think that might be his first start as well. I've never seen him before. Back there in 17th. Brian Zabelski in 18th. Andrew Kosick in 19th. Ray Lombardi in 20th. Greg Brockway in 21st, Paulo Coimbra in 22nd, Kenneth Staub in 23rd, Josh Olson in 24th. Then a little bit further back, we have Stephen Hellowell in 25th, John Casey in 26th, and then Jerry DiPiero. He did not set a time back there, starting in 27th. So this is really kicking up to be an interesting race, and we have a lot to talk about before we go green, judging off of these guys haven't even started rolling around this track, and they do have to complete a full pace lap around here. And so I want to mention something. So Rui Coimbra has won the first two races of this season, but it has not come without a lot of effort and good luck from his part. And with a new driver up here, Scott Keenan, especially with our old guys back there that know a lot about what they're doing in Joshua Soto, Ronnie Coates, Sean Hayes back there as well, and David Staubs, Mitchell Peak as well here. I mean, these guys, they know a lot about what they're doing, and we have a newcomer up here, and Rui Coimbra is going to have a lot of competition, so I mean, think he can keep up to his winning ways?
He's going to have his hands full. I got a bit of a correction for you. That 61 car is actually Michael Coates, not Scott Keen. So when you see that Brando car, it's going to be Michael Coates.
That is a little odd, because it was telling me that when I looked through iRacing, but on the overlays it's telling me Scott Keen, so it looks like Michael Coates actually is on pole, but the actual Scott Keen back there in 8th. So just a reminder for everybody at home, Michael Coates is the 61 car and the 271 car is the actual Scott Keen. It looks like there's a bit of an imposter up there in first place.
Yeah, maybe he's using this as a tactic to keep himself from being noticed too much, and hopefully he can run away with one.
He's trying to scare his opponents up there. Oh, that's great. So I mean, as they head through a snake here, I mean, there's even more stuff here. I mean, Charles Vaccaro, I mean, that was an insane finish last week for the open class, and Charles Vaccaro really stole that one for himself, and starting second here today, he has a lot of work to do if he wants to catch up to Hayes.
Yeah, he's going to have his hands full, but there's a lot of opportunity to make positions just off of attrition at this track, especially early on. I did some cider laps, and I noticed that this car does not really like this track on cold tires. So during this pace lap, if you can do anything to heat your tires up, it's going to pay off in the long run, especially on those opening laps. But be mindful that there is probably going to be some incidents, especially coming through like the snake, turn 4 and 5 before the snake, and through Oak Tree on cold tires.
Yeah, definitely. And as these guys head towards the back straight under pacing here, it just really gives us another chance to look at the length of this straightaway here as we reload the overlays. Look like it hasn't fixed itself just yet. So, I mean, there's so much that could happen, and we know, judging off of what we've seen in the past here in the Spec-5 World Tour at VIR, I mean, there is so much that can go wrong at this track, but there's also so much that can go right for some of these drivers, because the draft can just pull everybody together in the snap, like, just by the snap of your fingers, and it's just absolutely insane the amount of skill this track takes and the amount of luck it takes as well with just having the draft being on your side, and especially with VIR. I mean, very historic on iRacing, the second track they ever scanned, and I mean, you can just tell when they come over the crest on that hill with some of the cars turning into the DeLorean and floating for a little bit there. This track is old, but these cars are new, and the drivers are about to attack fresh Virginian pavement for the first time this season. There we go, the overlays fixed, and now you see Michael Coates up there in P1. So we're looking at the back of the field right here. Everybody formed up through Hog Pen as they let the pace car roll ahead of him. And now at this point, the iRacing... Oh, wait, no, we're a little early. There we go. The iRacing safety car is going to dive into the safety of the pit lane, and it's all up to the flagman as the anticipation hangs in the air. And we are green here at Virginia International Raceway for the Spec-5 World Tour. Sean Hayes already peeking out wide there. They're going to go 3 wide for 4th back there. Already a big group of cars fanning out as Rui Coimbra tries to go around the outside to the lead. Everybody on the brakes early to keep their distance and be safe here into the horseshoe. It's going to be difficult for them to maintain space and keep their speed up at the same time. Looks like everybody got through pretty clean there. Actually, no, Charles Vaccaro, I'm not sure if he started from the pits, but he's way back there, and also maybe an incident from him back there. So yeah, there he is back there in 27th currently. There's Jerry DiPiero on 26, just biding his time. Everybody's single file for the most part, as there's a few battles in the midfield, but so far Michael Coates is checking out at the moment as they head through the left hook and into Snake here to head towards the S's for the first time tonight. It looks like a pretty clean start for most drivers, but a very racy one at that.
Oh, we see an incident very early. Oh, that's gonna be Paulo Coimbra's race most likely. I believe they do have a faster pair, but he's gonna have a lot of trouble limping that around, as it looks like he and Andrew Kosick got together coming through the Snake. Very easy to do. It's a very tight section of the track. Luckily didn't collect anybody else with them. I think we're gonna pull up a replay of it.
Yeah,
see what happens here.
They head, sorry to interrupt you there, they head through Snake, and it looks like just trying to stay on track was Kosick there through turn 6 and through turn 6A there. It looks like he was just trying to stay on the racing surface and couldn't do it without giving Paulo Coimbra a little bit of a nudge there. But already Michael Coates starting to form a gap, but this is where the draft is going to really start to come into play here, as it's going to allow Joshua Soto to make a big move on Rui Coimbra into roller coaster with almost no harm done to let Michael Coates pull out further. And that, my friends, is the power of the draft here at this racetrack, as they're going to head through Hogpen for the first time tonight here and back down to the front straightaway to do it all over again as we wrap up the first 2 minutes of this race.
Josh Soto looking to get a good run out of the final corner to get a chance to take a passing opportunity into turn 1 on Michael Coates. It looks like Michael Coates got a little bit better of a run. We'll see if Soto sets one up here. It looks like he's going to be patient and wait for it and maybe just try to save some fuel. So that the cars at the front of the track, you may see them be a little less aggressive, try to save some fuel, while some of the drivers in the midfield may get their elbows out early, try to be aggressive, make up some track position, because track position is extremely important at VIR.
Yeah, as it looked like Soto got really close to Michael Coates there as they went to the horseshoe that time. But it looks like they maintained their distance, and everybody is so far still okay as they head through the left hook for the second time tonight. Everybody's still maintaining their gaps and doing a great job at it, but nobody's doing a better job than Joshua Soto here to not only hang on to the back bumper of Michael Coates through this challenging section, but get close enough to maybe think about a move here before they get to the S's. It looks like he's going to sit in line and push Michael Coates towards the S's here. Over the curbs they come for the second time tonight. Here's David Staub under pressure from Mitchell Peak back there in 5th place as they round at turn 10 and head towards Oak Tree here. This on the back straight here is where Joshua Soto could possibly make a move.
Yeah, we can see him put his nose out there. He definitely wanted to pass the message to Coates that you're not running away with this. Got up to his bumper very early once he got around Coimbra.
Yeah, now he looks for a move around Michael Coates. Looks like he's going to hang on the back bumper for now, pushing him down the back straight. This is a very interesting strategy, but it could also be strategic to help save fuel. Now he peeks out of line to the left side of Michael Coates as they head over the crest and back down the hill, then up the hill once again into the roller coaster. It's going to be a braking contest into this corner, and it looks like Soto's going to get the better of it. He takes the lead for the first time tonight.
Coates backing out of it a little early, probably playing it safe. No need to fight for the lead early on. He can save a little fuel in second now. Let Soto break the way for him through the thick air, but hasn't had any cars go through it yet. And we'll see. I imagine that we'll see a lot of swapping back and forth for the lead of this race.
Yeah, and everybody just battling all over the racing surface as Sean Hayes doesn't really have a lot of competition for the Open Class Championship right now. And actually, he had fastest lap for a second as it tumbles down the order to end up at Jordy Fike's name back there in P10 with a 209.554. And just really with how just drafty this track is, those fastest laps can go all over the place. But Tom Athan there, that was through Oak Tree. It looks like he just misjudged the gap, end up spinning out, and that's another car hitting him. I'm not sure who that was, but it looked like wasn't able to get the brakes down in time, ended up sliding back towards the asphalt, and somebody hit him there as well. Here's Jerry DiPiero in front of Charles Vaccaro through turn 10. Bit of understeer there, keeps it under wraps. There's Stephen Hellewell right in front of him as he heads through Oak Tree, and looks like, he did get it on the grass a little bit, and ends up sliding back across the racetrack towards Oak Tree there as Andrew Kosick tries to catch up to these guys. Saves it and is okay to continue there in that number 122 car.
Looked like he had a little help from Charles Vaccaro, but probably not intentionally. It did look like Jerry had a little bit of issues getting the car rode down, and then, like you said, got into the grass a little bit. Had to check up.
Here as Soto might have actually made a really big mistake here. He went tumbling down the leaderboard through the left hook. And oh no, he goes in the grass and he tries to save it. He ends up saving it here. And now he's going to have to drive through the field once again, just like he did when he never was qualifying. But that's disastrous for him, as there's a lot of quick drivers up there who could really pull away from him. He's back there in P10. That's going to be a struggle for him.
He did a really good job of abandoning it, trying to save the car on the pavement. He almost certainly would have ended up sideways across the front of the field and had a big pileup. Played it smart, pulled it over into the grass, got a handle on it, and lived to fight another day.
Yeah, and looks like he will be okay there, but he's going to have a bit of a forward battle there. As speaking of battles, there's one for third back there. That's Ronnie Coates and Mitchell Peak going at it into Horseshoe. Mitchell Peak going to have the preferred line on the inside there. Looks like going to try to take advantage of it. It looked like there was a car off track there trying to exit pit road, just staying out of the way there. Good on him. Mitchell Peak gets third spot away from Ronnie Coates, as now they're coming up on Tom Athan, who was a lap car after a bit of an incident. Believe he was involved in a wreck earlier, or just might have short pitted here, as Rui Coimbra tries to chase down Michael Coates, but that 61 car is really quick, and it looks like he's having a tough time doing it.
77 car doing his best to get out of the way. Could cause an issue going through some of these tighter sections, but the leaders have cleared him. That was Paulo Coimbra coming out of the pit stops, taking his fast repair after that incident in the Snake.
And here we go, as Rui Coimbra really close to the back bumper of Michael Coates here as they head through the S's up towards turn 10. Rui Coimbra looks like gets a bit of a disadvantageous line there, but it looks like he does get a pretty decent exit for himself onto the brakes early as Rui Coimbra. Looks like he lost a bit of time on exit there, or on entry there, probably going to make it up on exit there. But Michael Coates is going to end up extending that gap by the time they get to the back straight. And now it's just a line of cars as these guys just try to chop through these 45 minutes, as now we're in a draft train.
And we see up here in the top 5, Mitchell Peak. Jason Bossy in the YouTube chat will be happy to see Mitchell Peak there challenging for the podium. And as Jason also mentioned in the chat, David Staub in P5 has a real life event coming up here next weekend, which I'll actually be at. So I'm going to try to track him down at the track and see what he's got going on.
Yeah, good luck on Mitchell Peak for that one, as Rui Coimbra made a daring pass for the lead through Roller Coaster. But it looks like Michael Coates is going to try the switchback on him as they head down the front straight. These guys have a bit of a tailwind here as they head it down this straightaway. Mitchell Peak looks like on the back bumper, Rui Coimbra pushing him down this straightaway. Just ever so close on that back bumper, and now he's going to have to be on the brakes early if he doesn't want to be involved in any contact, and Rui Coimbra is going to take the lead as a result of that. And it looks like there's a bit of a battle back there as well, as Sean Hayes tries to get around Ronnie Coates on the inside of Horseshoe there. Joshua Soto trying to follow suit after making up a few spots. As they head through the NASCAR bend, it looks like everybody's single file and clean racing at the moment, but these guys are obviously not very hesitant to get into battles for spots here.
Sean Hayes moving up to 5th place. I think I've said this about Sean before. I don't expect to see him with a blue number very much longer. Maybe not even the rest of this season. Oh, there was some contact there. Looked like Jordy Fike. Jordy Fike and somebody else.
I'm not sure who that was. That might have been Jordy Fike and the person he's racing there. That is Scott. That is the real Scott Keane back there, currently in 11th. And it looked like he got really close to the grass there as they're going through turn 10. And it looks like Jordy Fike ends up with the better of that position. Here comes Otis Adams Jr. heading towards turn number 11, right behind Lee Martin, who won the Open Class Championship last season, now up into the Pro Class and fighting with the big dogs here early in this race.
They were going through a very tight section of the track too wide, and you almost have to expect that it's going to end in heartbreak. Luckily, it looked like it just cost Keen a few places and no real damage done.
And it looks like Mitchell Peak has also gotten around Michael Coates, and Ronnie Coates looking to do the same thing as they head through roller coaster. And there's some contact. Mitchell Peak and Michael Coates both around through roller coaster. A bunch more cars off track there, and that's going to offset the entire field by a wide margin, as now Rui Coimbra has the lead by 2 seconds over Ronnie Coates, back to Sean Hayes, who is 5/10 behind Ronnie. David Staub 1.4 behind Sean. And then it's Joshua Soto and Jordy Fike still in that draft, but that just way offset where the field is on this racetrack.
Yeah, I'd like to see a replay of it. It didn't look like Michael Coates had complete rights to that corner, and Mitchell Peak took the apex. And yeah, it looks like Coates was not really alongside when they got to the turning point. Was able to outbrake a little bit. His nose is still in there. Mitchell Peak tries to close the door. Unfortunately, Mr. Coates had his nose in there still. Not the best way to introduce yourself to a new league, but hopefully they can work it out and get back to the front.
I wouldn't put a lot of the blame on Michael Coates for that one. I mean, Peak could have had a spotter, and he could have used his mirrors. Looked there was a car to the inside, but it looks like just wrong place, wrong time for both drivers. So I'm going with a racing deal on that one. So yes, hopefully they can get past that and get back to racing here, which is exactly what they're doing, as now we have a gap between the leaders, and this is where Ronnie Coates has to put his foot down and try and catch up to that number 78 car, because if he doesn't, Rui Coimbra could run away with yet another victory.
Big gap here. He definitely has a chance to break away and make sure that they don't get a draft. It could come down to the pit stops. Ronnie Coates could make a better stop and catch him a little bit through that, or he and Sean Hayes could work together, kind of play some leapfrog to try to catch up to Coimbra. But right now, Coimbra's running away, though we see Coates has closed the gap by a couple tenths coming out of Oak Tree.
Yeah, and he has to keep that up if he wants to get into draft range to help himself a little bit. And he also has an open class driver there who, if he catches up, could also help in the fight by pushing Coates down these straightaways. And then there's Joshua Soto back there, who ended up getting in an unforced error incident, but he still fights on there in P4 with David Staub right on his tail as they head through Hog Pen to do it all again as they come to take lap 7 in this race. And now we have to wonder, when are pit stops going to start soon? I'm going to pull up my notes to see when these guys do have to pit, and it looks like the pit window is from lap 7 to 15. So these guys, they could come into the pits this lap and try and short pit the field.
The pit delta is about 40 seconds here, so you want to keep an eye on your timing sheet to see where you would come out and try not to come out in traffic. So I suspect we may see some of the guys at the back of the pack maybe try to pull some undercuts. The guys up front are probably going to stick it out towards the end of the window.
Yeah, and if you're one of these guys here like Scott Keane or Lee Martin or Otis Adams Jr., you got to wonder, what can pit strategy do to help your race? You mentioned the pit delta was 40 seconds, and like you said, these guys could run it to the end of their fuel to try and just get a good, or let me rephrase that, they could run it to the end of their fuel stint to try and pit and get as little gallons of fuel in the car as possible to try and catch up to the leaders just off of pit stops. We've seen people do it before to get gaps on other people in leagues like XTC and others, but these guys could try and pull it off here, and honestly, it could very well work. We've seen it happen in the past.
So this track in these cars is very much a momentum track. You want to try to keep your momentum up as much as possible. So stretching out your fuel run as late as possible will let you run less weight for longer. So that's the ideal strategy. But in order to get around some of the slower traffic ahead of you, the undercut may be what you need.
Yeah, and if you're up front here, like Rui Coimbra there, who has a massive gap on any other cars behind him, is actually Joshua Soto now racing Sean Hayes for third. It looks like he's going to get it as they head into roller coaster. And now Soto has to set his sights on Ronnie Coates, who is catching up to Rui Coimbra slowly but surely. And now you got to wonder, if you're Joshua Soto in third or Rui Coimbra leading this race, what do you do to try and maintain and or close that gap to the car in front of you, to try and get the better of the pit stops, to try and end up with the advantage at the end of this race?
It looks like Coates is doing a good job at closing down Coimbra. If you're Josh Soto, you just got to pin your ears back, get that knife between your teeth, make sure you run some good, clean laps, and you should be able to run down these leaders pretty easily.
Yeah, we've already seen the insane speed that 135 car back there in P3 can put out as Ronnie Coates starts to get within slipstream range of Rui Coimbra as they head through the NASCAR bend for the 8th time tonight. And Soto, I mean, Ronnie Coates has closed the gap enough to get the draft off Rui Coimbra as they head into the left hook here. We know that much, but if you're Joshua Soto back there, who is also closing that gap, he's bringing Sean Hayes, David Staub, and Jordy Fike with him. So, I mean, Rui Coimbra, he has one car. He has not one car, not two cars, not three cars, not four cars, but 5 cars catching up to him, all that carry massive speed along with them, which could really put up a fight to Coimbra's 2 straight wins early on in this season.
It's really going to come down to the pit stop, but you're right. Josh Soto playing the Pied Piper for these 4 cars. He's going to pull them all the way back up to the leaders if he's able to catch them.
Yeah, and that's when the real battle's going to happen. I mean, especially, we got to keep an eye on for the last lap battles here as we see Greg Brockway currently P14 overall, but currently carries himself into P3 for the open class. And if he keeps this up, he could maintain a podium, as his next 2 closest competitors are really far behind him, actually. It looks like Charles Vaccaro is over 5.5 seconds behind Greg Brockway. So if Greg keeps this up, he could very well get a podium for himself. But actually, it looks like Ronnie Coates is taking the lead up there as those guys are heading into roller coaster right now. And now through Hogpen, it looks like. So Ronnie Coates is taking the lead, judging off of the overlay. We'll see if we can switch them real quick. Here they are, heading through the final corner. And Ronnie Coates has taken the lead. But Joshua Soto back there is getting into draft range of Rui Coimbra.
Anytime these guys are fighting, it's going to make Soto's job easier. So if we get a replay of the past, we probably see that Coates took the position going into roller coaster. I would guess that Coimbra lifted and let him have it so they didn't fight too much to try to save as much time as possible. But Soto's already knocking on their back door.
Yeah, and we try and look as we find the replay. Here's the replay of it. They're heading over the crest. That's where the draft is going to be the most strongest, the crest of that hill when these guys are heading up it. And Ronnie Coates easily swoops to the inside. Late braking proves effective. And Ronnie Coates took the lead this way. Actually, it looked like a bit of a mistake from Coimbra there. Dipped his right sides in the grass, but hangs on to it. And now these guys are all within draft range of each other. Joshua Soto has drawn ever so closer to Rui Coimbra there in second. And now it's really, the fight is on for the lead of this race here, even with pit stops still to come.
Anybody from Soto back, this might be the most opportune time to pit now that they've caught back up into contact with the leaders. This might be the right time to pull an undercut.
Yeah, but still these guys can go to lap 15 on their fuel tank, so you gotta wonder, I mean, we've seen this strategy play out before where guys stay out as long as they can to put as little fuel as they can in their car. I've done it before. Any sim racers that are in chat have probably done it before. So, and these guys, we've watched them do it before here live. So, I mean, that could very well be an opportune strategy for these guys. But I mean, another thing is if these drivers do want to take tires, which I mean, 2 tires, when these guys have to refuel their cars, they can take 2 tires and still be refueling when those 2 tires get put back on. But 4 tires will cost them extra time. So what do you think the strategy is going to be on that? Because I mean, 4 tires, obviously, yeah, you're going to have freshies and you're going to be a little bit faster, but it's going to cost you more time than it would taking 2.
Almost certainly it's going to be 2 tires. It's just a matter of determining which side of tires you want to take. And on this track, it's almost certainly going to be left side tires.
As it looks like we have a clip of Mitchell Peak going off track here. There's Jedediah Babinec in front of him, Scott Keane behind him here through a hog pen and back down the front straight. It looked like he tried to get a move on Jedediah Babinec, just stuck it out to too wide for his own good. Ends up having to fall back and racing Scott Keane down the front straightaway. Looks like they're still side by side as they head towards Horseshoe here in their own little bat, as you see the leaders up there in Horseshoe already at this point. Oh, wait, what was that?
That was Michael Coates losing his engine.
If I'm not mistaken, Michael Coates just blew his own engine there. You saw him tow. Let's see if we can get a replay from the onboard of that. I think he might have downshifted too early, over-revved the car, and blew the motor from it. Wow, I did not think that would happen from him. Let's see if we can go onboard as he just... I don't know what could have happened there. I mean, he didn't over-rev the car. He was fine on the downshifts, and the thing just blew up. See if we're rewinding it here, heading back as he is heading towards the corner. Oh, there it is. Way over-rev the engine from 5th down to 2nd there, it looked like. And that put the engine all out of whack, and it couldn't hold on to that high of an RPM. And kablooey goes Coates' engine. He's going to have to tow and put a new one in, but it looks like he's already back out on track. It looks like just unfortunate in his first start here.
It's very easy to do. You use a lot of engine braking going into that first corner to try to make the braking point as late as possible, and it looked like he had to rifle through those gears pretty quick because he was coming in hot on another car ahead of him and just pulled that lever a little too soon and grenaded the engine.
And,
It looks like we have a replay of Mitchell Peak possibly coming into the pits.
And
so,
it looks... Here you go, Ed Randall.
It looks like Tom Rath and Mitchell Peak both dipping into the pits early, as well as the 112. All three are the first 3 pitters that we see for fuel. We've seen a few come in for repairs, but they're the first ones for fuel.
Yeah, so if any of you guys are curious as to why they lost positions, that is why. And actually, speaking of pitting, I want to say that Joshua Soto came into the pits because currently he's in 12th, really far back from any of his competitors. So I want to see if we can take a look, see if he did pit here. Otherwise, I'm not sure what could have happened to him, as Rui Coimbra right on the tail of Ronnie Coates for the lead here, but David Staub and Jordy Fike still chasing them. Looks like this is through Hog Pen, and it looks like Joshua Soto does make the hard right onto pit road, so now the fuel strategy game is in full effect here, as it looked like Sean Hayes pitted with Joshua Soto as well, but it looks like just didn't get it right there and ends up all over 5 seconds behind him here. As Rui Coimbra, I mean, now you got to wonder when these 4 cars are going to come in, because they have to pit eventually. They have to pit within the next 4 laps. The pit window is lap 15. I mean, you could stretch it out to lap 16, but you would have to be doing a lot of fuel saving to make that happen around this 3.27 mile long circuit. So these guys, I would expect them to have to come in either this lap or the next one, because, I mean, if they don't want Soto, who presumably has fresh left side tires, like you said, these guys might want to take left sides here for this race. Joshua Soto, I mean, he could really get, just if he sets some really good laps for himself, he could end up walking away with maybe a 2-3 second lead here when the other cars pull into the pits.
Dave Staub and Jordy Fike will want to pit, but they won't want to pit until they close the gap a little bit and try to make up some of that track position. But if they see the leaders come in, they'll want to follow. Josh Soto came out in a bit of a bubble. He doesn't have much in the way of slipstream, so he could be suffering, and he may have to deal with some traffic. So the leaders are probably going to stick out as long as possible, as we see Fike dip into the pits. Feels like he's covered enough of that track position, is going to dip in now, maybe come out right behind Mr. Soto.
Yeah, now we have to see where Jordy Fike ends up, and we could gauge off of where Jordy Fike ends up, judging off of when he gets with Joshua Soto here. Soto is currently heading through Hog Pen and through the final corner here, so Jordy Fike has to get out of his pit stall soon if he wants to try and maintain a good gap with this 135 car. There he is out of his stall, and here comes Soto blasting down the front straight, as Jordy Fike is barely on the gas. They're just exited pit road, so judging off of that, Joshua Soto could have a pretty decent lead here when he gets out of the pits. He pulled a 2.5 second gap on Jordy Fike there when Jordy exited the pits. And now these guys, now they have to wonder, oh crap, is Soto going to be ahead of us?
They need to work together, not fight each other, and set the fastest times they can right now. Quality pace out of all three of these. Use the slipstream to your advantage. Don't fight, and then dip into the pits as late as possible.
Yeah, and that would result in them having to take less fuel into their cars, which could result in a faster pit cycle for these guys, and that could end up with them getting a gap on Joshua Soto, which would really help them late game in this race, and we could see these exact three same cars battling for the win 20 minutes from now as they would head down the back straight for the last lap here, but we still have around 19 and a half minutes to go, and pit stops still need to be done for these three cars. As you can see the radiant and almost the intercooler of that number 78 car, judging off of how close they were getting from that rear bumper camera as they head through a roller coaster. Now this is the important part. If any of these three pit, which of them is it going to be here as they head through Hogpen to come back towards the start-finish line? Ronnie Coates looking a little right here. Ronnie Coates into the pits, and it looks like the others are going to follow him as well. Really hard on the brakes for all three of them. I wouldn't be shocked if any of them barely made pit speed. And it looked like Ronnie Coates, I mean, he was already committed by the time they got off Hogpen. But then Rui Coimbra and Ronnie Coates Ronnie Coates and David Staub there. I forgot who was in second and third. Really, I mean, they made a last-second decision there. Actually, it was Rui and David Staub, so made a last-second decision for themselves. Now we have to see where they end up. Ronnie Coates, they're all three towards pit exit, but here comes Joshua Soto. He's going to blast by the left side of him. So now Joshua Soto has a demanding lead over Ronnie Coates for the provisional lead of this race. It looks like it's about, I want to say, a 1.7 seconds of a gap here between provisional first and provisional second. So Joshua Soto, the undercut proving successful, and he currently has a demanding provisional lead over the other guys. Wow, excuse me.
He still has 4 cars ahead of him that have not pit yet. They could slow him down and let Coates and gang catch up or give him problems. Or worst case scenario, there could be an incident in front of him. Some of these slower guys maybe feeling the pressure of a faster guy behind him.
Yeah, and now this is where those guys behind him have to work in unison to try and catch up to Soto and not let him run away with this race here. So we take a look at Greg Brockway, who Sean Hayes has pitted, so these guys still have to come into the pits. But currently, Greg Brockway, right in front of Joshua Soto here, could battle with Charles Vaccaro for second, but Joshua Soto is going to dive to the inside and say, thank you very much, I'll take overall fourth there as he heads through Oak Tree for the 13th time tonight here. Now Charles Vaccaro is ahead of him. And if Joshua Soto gets in draft range at the opportune moment, he could just pull further away from the other competitors he has behind him, and he's already opening up a gap to the cars behind him that he would be racing for the win here. So I don't want to say Soto has ran away with this, but at the moment, Joshua Soto has ran away with this.
Right now, he's definitely sitting in a good position. I think the biggest winner off of this pit cycle, though, is Jordy Fike, who's now in 8th place. Looks like he's going to be in effectively 4th place. So he made a lot of gains through the pit strategy, and he's in this. And if they're able to track down Soto, he's got a chance to win.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not going to be easy for these guys to track down Soto. I mean, the only thing that you could possibly think of is Soto put less fuel in the tank of his race car there, which, I mean, that would lead to a faster pit stop, yes, but another thing is, I mean, I don't want to question the technical wits of Joshua Soto. He's an astounding driver and probably knows the pit strategy inside and out. Here's Jerry DiPiero heads onto pit road, as well as Greg Brockway there in front of him. Charles Vaccaro elects to stay out once again here, but I don't want to question the mastermind Joshua Soto there, currently in overall P3, but I mean, if you reckon he could have been a little bit in over his head when it came to the fuel stops, and you think he might have underfueled his car a little just to get that quick of a pit stop.
He could have been saving fuel too. He had a lot of chance to he had to work his way through the field after that incident, but he also had a lot of opportunities to save fuel in that process while he was running down the leaders. So I suspect he'll be fine on fuel, but we'll never know until we get to the end of the race.
Yeah, and I mean, Soto, he's catching up to Charles Vaccaro now, and Ronnie Coates is starting to lose that gap a little bit as the 135 starts to fall ever so further into the distance as these guys head into Oak Tree once again and down the back straight here. This is where they need to work together and try and attack the track at all sorts of different angles to try and find ways to go faster and close that gap to Joshua Soto here. Because, I mean, he could have run away with this. And, I mean, going back to that second group of cars there that already pitted, being Ronnie Coates, Rui Coimbra, Jordy Fike, and David Staub here, it doesn't look like they're racing each other. And, I mean, that could help them. But, I mean, also, Ronnie Coates, even with no draft help, he still has the draft off of Charles Vaccaro, who has to pit either this lap or the next lap. So Charles Vaccaro is just really assisting Joshua Soto. It looks like Soto dipped his left side tires off track there. There goes Charles Vaccaro into the pits, and now Joshua Soto has no draft help, and that's where those 4 cars behind him could have the advantage.
Those 4 cars need to be patient, though. If they're going to have any chance to catch Soto, they need to work together, be patient. They have plenty of time to race each other for other spots on the podium. If they're going to have any hope of catching Soto, they really need to stay in line, bump draft down the straightaways, and try to close that gap.
And it looks like they did make up a bit of time towards the back half of that lap as the other cars pitting is going to move Sean Hayes back up into the lead for the open class, P6 overall. Great job from the 94 team, but it looks like something's a bit odd there. I thought Charles Vaccaro and Greg Brockway were going to end up in second and third for their open class, but Jose Gonzalez and Ray Lombardi have ended up taking that spot for them. I'm not sure if these guys have already pitted, but if not, Jose Gonzalez could end up with a free open class second place, as well as Ray Lombardi getting a nice podium for himself here, as Charles Vaccaro and Greg Brockway are way behind him.
I'm not sure if they've pit or not. I believe they have not. But if they have, they have definitely made up a lot of time. And Ray Lombardi is not very far from Ruiz, so he's going to be able to get some help from a bit of tow and widen that gap back to Vaccaro.
Yeah, and if he can close that gap to Sean Ruiz there in P15, he could possibly try and manipulate the draft. I mean, Sean Ruiz is only 2 seconds, or not even 2 seconds, 1.2 seconds off of Jose Gonzalez. And Vaccaro, it looks like Vaccaro definitely pulled into the pits that lap there. I mean, could have been just not registering there on our pit stop strategy thing. So Ray Lombardi pit as early as possible on lap 7. And you know what? That could explain how Joshua Soto got so far out in front here. As if you pit early, you take tires. I mean, you're going to run faster laps during the portion of the race where everybody else is just waiting for their pit stop lap to come up, running on older tires, running slower lap times here. So, I mean, it looks like the undercut being the favorable strategy here today, as it has put Joshua Soto 3 seconds ahead of his nearest competitors, and Jose Gonzalez and Ray Lombardi into second and third for the open class podium.
Jose Gonzalez has had a pretty quiet race, but it's been a very good race. As you said, second place in the open class. We'll see if he can maybe make some moves and get a few more spots, pick up a few more points.
As it looks like Sean Ruiz is falling off the back of Jose Gonzalez. Oh, wait, no, excuse me. No, he's not here. And actually, Ronnie Coates closing the gap down to Soto a little bit there as well. But Sean Ruiz has closed the gap to Jose Gonzalez. Ray Lombardi has been waiting right behind him as well. So this could lead to a battle for second and third in the open class. As it looks like Sean Hayes just got passed by Mitchell Peak, but currently gaining a lot of time on him through these S's here. But Mitchell Peak takes 6th place for the moment, but Sean Hayes in that number 94 car still right behind him.
That incident was really a heartbreak for Mitchell Peak's race. He was definitely one of the favorites to win, and now he's 7.5 seconds off that second pack. So he's going to need a miracle to catch them.
And it looks like Ronnie Coates has started to narrow this gap down just a bit with only 10 minutes remaining in this race. It was up. It looked like you can tell off the gaps there. Looked like he knocked 2/10 out of the gap on lap 14 and 3/10 out of the gap on lap 15. So Ronnie Coates currently setting a bit faster lap times here in second. And I mean, that shows that, I mean, these guys are definitely fast back here. Actually, I think he may have lost a bit of time there as the gap inflated by 4/10 there. So with only 10 minutes remaining in this race, these guys have to do something, and they have to do something fast.
That's right. They need to work together, though. So if they start battling, they immediately discount their chances for overall victory. So it's a long lap. I suspect they'll sit in line until the white flag, and then we'll probably see a really big fight for that second spot on the podium. But until then, I suspect they'll work together.
As they break through the NASCAR bend with under 10 minutes remaining in this race, they have to do something soon. All of these guys went faster than Joshua Soto on the previous lap here, so these guys, they still have it together. They're still holding it together, and they're still slowly but surely closing that gap. But, I mean, with under 9 minutes remaining in this race, they might not have enough time here, even with this speed that they're closing this gap.
The thing to consider, though, is they only need to close half that gap before they're in slipstream range. Once they get into slipstream range, that gap will completely disappear. So we could see a big fight or the lead of the race in the closing 2 laps.
That is true. I did honestly forget about that, as it looks like Soto is better in the first couple of sectors, but these guys just kick it into high gear for the last few, especially down this straightaway where Rui Coimbra can get right up to the back bumper of Ronnie Coates and just push him down this straightaway to catch up to Joshua Soto and close that gap as they head over the hill once again. And Rui Coimbra just getting the draft on Ronnie Coates, probably going to push him down the straight if he gets close enough to do it. There he is. They lock bumpers down this straight. That's going to help a little bit. And it looks like Soto lost around 1/10 of a second as these guys break into roller coaster. And it looks like those guys so much faster on entry, but Joshua Soto really just gets the exit speed perfect as they head through Hogpen. And it looked like Soto may have been just a little bit worse there than Ronnie Coates through that last sector. Overall, it looked like they closed about 1/10 of a second up to Joshua Soto that lap. And I mean, if that rate of improvement keeps going, I don't think they're going to have enough time.
If I'm Soto, what I want to do is, on this front straightaway, reach up and snap off that rear view mirror. I don't want to know anything about going on behind me. I want to hit my marks and set quality pace laps for the rest of this race.
Yeah, but the thing is, if the other drivers behind him are able to do that as well, looking out of their windshield, trying to see if they can get that 135 closer and closer to their front bumper. I mean, these guys have the strength and numbers advantage towards the end of this race. I mean, down these straights, these guys could just push each other down the straights and just make up loads of time on Joshua Soto. So, I mean, it's really, I would say they have the advantage here, but with the speed of that 135 car, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough as they head under the VIR bridge here. And it looks like Soto, I mean, I just can't tell with how these guys are running and how the gap is closing. They're just so even all over the racetrack.
You see Soto really taking good advantage of the slip angle on these tires. He can really drift these cars around to maintain momentum, and he gets a pretty good run out of Oak Tree. Last lap, he did not get the greatest run. We'll see how much the gap closes, though, because it seems like Coates is always really strong out of Oak Tree, and then the tandem draft, really working to help them close the gap as we see it dwindling. And I say 2 laps, they're within slipstream range.
And while this battle continues to see if the 4 cars from 2nd through 5th can catch up to Joshua Soto, we're going to take a look at our sponsor, at our only sponsor for the Spec-5 World Tour here tonight, and that is once again TPC Motorsports, which is a 4-year-old racing team based in Birmingham, Alabama, that currently races a Caterham 7 420R in the HSR series and a BMW Spec E46. So big shout out to them for jumping on board of the Spec-5 World Tour and getting and making what we get to do up here in the booth every Thursday night possible, and just letting us be able to watch these awesome races every Thursday nights, and just keeping the Spec-5 World Tour world moving. And going back to the race here, Jedediah Babinek is in a bit of a battle. I mean, there's battles all over the place. I mean, there's one for second in the open class as Ray Lombardi continues to try and get around Jose Gonzalez. And I mean, he could have a shot down this front straightaway. He has the draft advantage, but these guys do have a tailwind down here at the current moment. So, I mean, the draft isn't as effective when these guys have a tailwind as if it were a headwind. And so here it looks like Lombardi is going to close the gap. Looks like he's not going to be close enough to try and make a move on Jose Gonzalez just yet. It looked like he tried to dive to the inside there through the horseshoe.
He was definitely showing Jose his nose, and it did cause Gonzalez to run a little bit wide through turn one. So he definitely knows that he's there. We'll see probably an overtake attempt going into roller coaster at the end of the back straight.
Yes, here with those track packs that just popped up on the right side of your screen, you can see all the info about the weather and temperature info of this track. So it's a bit of a warm track for these guys, so it's pretty slick. And I mean, the wind is really messing with the way these guys have to run this racetrack, because they have a tailwind down the front stretch, but that leads to them having a crosswind down the back straight, which I mean could very well affect the handling of these race cars and how much they are able to manipulate the draft to try and make up time on each other. But here's the battle for second in the open class as they head through turn 10 and towards 11. I mean, really, Ray Lombardi's best shot for a move, I would say, is this lap down the back straight. He's close enough to the point where if he gets a good exit, which he did, he could be close enough to make a move. And I mean, another play that he could try and do that could be a bit risky if he doesn't get close enough is to push that car in front of him, of Jose Gonzalez, down the back straightaway, but it looks like he's going to pull out of line to the left side of Jose Gonzalez as they come over the hill and back down it towards roller coaster, barreling towards the corner. Onto the brakes they come, and it looks like Ray Lombardi is going to take that position just barely, but he goes out wide in the second part of it. That gives Jose a shot to try and get back at him, but it looks like Ray Lombardi is going to take that position as they head into Hogpen and down that front straight. That's where Jose Gonzalez could try and make another move, but these guys, they're starting to close the gap. They've got it to 1.9 seconds now. They have it to under 2 seconds. You can see how much they're knocking that gap in each lap, and it looks like the older tires starting to hurt the way Soto has to handle this race car. But I mean, with the way they're running this track, I mean, next lap could be the white flag.
So it looked like the gap closed by 3 or 4 tenths going into turn one, and I've seen Stephen Helliwell was ahead of Josh Soto before that corner. I don't know if there was an incident that caused Josh Soto to have to lift or to check up, but Helliwell now well behind the lead pack, 1 lap down.
I think that might have been because of an incident earlier where he had to pit to fix damage here. Here is Helliwell going into turn one. You can probably see Soto barreling into frame there. This is Helliwell going into turn number one. It looks like, he gets off track a little bit there. I would assume the leaders are right behind him, so he just keeps it off. Yeah, there's Joshua Soto, and there's the rest of the field, and Helliwell just keeps it off track there to try and stay out of the way. And by the way it's looking, Randall, I think next lap is going to be the white flag. So, I mean, those 4 cars behind Joshua Soto are running out of time.
They are out of time unless they can really decide to work together for the last lap and go all out for the overall win. They're not going to catch in this space of time. I expect that they're going to start fighting this lap, and Josh Soto is probably going to have a walk-away victory.
And Soto, he needs to try and just stay with it here for the last lap of this race here, as yes, they will come down the front straight to take the white flag. The final lap of this race is underway. So now this is where these guys have to put the pedal to the metal to try and catch up to Soto. But I mean, if they don't have the time, I mean, you can just see how much time they're knocking out of the gap, judging off of lap times. All of these guys were in the 2:09s last lap. Joshua Soto ran a 2:10.1. So, I mean, Joshua Soto, he's on older tires, but these guys still running faster laps than him. And if only they had more time, they might have had a shot. But through the NASCAR bend and into the left hook for the final time tonight, Randall, I think you're exactly right. I think this is the lap where these guys start to battle.
they're definitely going to fight. Their teamwork has gone out the window. This is the last chance to make any of these positions. Second is better than fifth, so they're all going to fight for it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Ray Lombardi has gotten around Jose Gonzalez and put some distance between him, as actually Ruiz has gotten around him, so that's going to open up a battle for the second place in the open class, as Jose actually currently side by side. Looks like they're swapping that position up there, but we're going to keep an eye on this battle up here, as these guys are going to go nuts down this back straight for the final time, especially if you're David Staub or Jordy Fike back here just trying to make up positions. No mistakes from Joshua Soto out front, though. This is where the battle is really going to start down this back straightaway between those four cars. I would expect if Jordy can get up to Rui, he's going to try and fight him for something down this back straightaway for the final time. Here we go on board with Soto. Let's see if we can swap back to the battle behind him here as they head down the hill and up the crest for the final time. David, this is on board of David Staub here. Soto very well could be running out of fuel here. A bit of a mistake going into the roller coaster. Joshua Soto was slowed down the back straight. He could be out of fuel into the hog pen. We gotta see what happens. He needs to be on the throttle for just this final bit of the straightaway. We gotta see what happens here. Joshua Soto back to the gas. I think he's gonna do it. He is gonna do it. Down to the line, Soto gets the fuel strategy perfect, and he holds on to win race 3 of the Spec-5 World Tour. Not much of a battle behind him, but the real battle just occurred just under our noses there for second in the open class, as Jose Gonzalez got back around Ray Lombardi, who presumably made a mistake to be 6 seconds behind his competitor. But Sean Hayes ends up winning the open class. Jose Gonzalez is going to take second for that, with Ray Lombardi rounding out the podium. Here's Greg Brockway heading into hog pen for the final time for himself back there in 17th. Going to get P4 in the open class. Great job from him. Nothing to be ashamed of for that number 62 team. And Andrew Kosick right behind him here, with Kenneth Staub trailing as well. Back down the front straight to finish off their race. Then our boy back there, Jerry DiPiero, looks like he made up some decent spots back there, and he's just going to have to cruise through hog pen for the last time tonight, and he's going to round the last corner to finish himself in 20th place there. Charles Vaccaro and Michael Coates back there. Unfortunate incidents plagued their races, but they are going to finish their race. Actually, I think Charles Vaccaro might have just run out of fuel, as it looks like Michael Coates still heading down the back straight. Here's Charles Vaccaro cruising to the line. I assume probably has the clutch in if these cars still have one of those. Just rolling. Come on. He's got it. Come on. There he is.
And across the line.
There he is. And
I think the same issue plagued Ray Lombardi on the last lap, which is why he gave up so much time to Gonzalez. Pretty sure I heard him out of gas, and now we see him on board. He's basically stopped, and you can hear it. He is running on fumes.
Yeah, that could have been what it is that allowed Jose Gonzalez to pull out so far. But I mean, that was a really good race. I mean, that was. Oh, I think there's a bit of an incident behind Ray Lombardi there. I just heard something break. I'm not sure what that was, but Joshua Soto gets the pit strategy just perfect. I think if they had one more lap, he definitely wasn't going to win that race, but he got it tonight. Soto takes the win here after finishing 1,000th of a second away from a win last week at Sebring. Ronnie Coates comes back for a P2. Rui Coimbra still gets a podium there in P3. Jordy Fike ends up in 4th. David Staub rounds out your top 5 in 5th. Mitchell Peak in 6th. Sean Hayes there in 7th. He's the winner of the open class here tonight. Really no competition for him, I want to say. He was just dominating that race for himself. Jedediah Babinek there in 8th. Scott Keane in 9th. It looked like his imposter up there didn't do too well for himself, so Scott Keane ends up 9th, but Lee Martin rounds out your top 10 in P10. Tom Rath in 11th, Otis Adams Jr. in 12th, Brian Zabelski in 13th, Sean Ruiz in 14th, Jose Gonzalez Great effort from him. Beats out Ray Lombardi, who ran out of fuel to finish second in the open class, but 15th overall. And speaking of Ray Lombardi, there he is back there in P3 for the open class, P16 overall. Sadly, ran out of fuel on the last lap. Greg Brockway back there in 17th. Good P4. Strong day for him. Andrew Kosek there in 18th. Then behind them, it's Kenneth Staub in 19th. Jerry DiPiero in his first start does really well for himself there in 20th. Charles Vaccaro there in 21st. Michael Coates in 22nd. Josh Olson in 23rd. John Casey in 24th. Stephen Hellowell in 25th. Tom Athan in 26th. And Paulo Coimbra ends up in 27th. So, I mean, that was just a great race from everybody. But, what do you say? And, I mean, that...
Yep. Okay. Hey guys, anybody that wants to go for an interview?
They got into the race pace, so it did sound like he was maybe saving a little bit of fuel there at the end. Once he saw that he was free and clear, he had to lift a little bit early going into the roller coaster. It sounded like, but managed to come home with the win. Just had just enough fuel. And it looks like we're waiting for a couple people to come in for our interviews. And we have some upcoming broadcasts on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Sunday night at 8:10 p.m. Eastern is the XSLR in the Dirt Wing Sprint 410s at Lanier. Next Monday, XTC, the GT3s and GT4s at COTA. That should be a great race. Next Tuesday night, we have a doubleheader, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, WSRL with the LMP2s and GT3s at Monza. That should be a really good race. And another really good race on Tuesday night, 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time. The American Muscle Series takes to Barber Motorsports Park for 60 minutes in the Mustang FR500S. And then join us back here again next Thursday night for the Spec-5 World Tour at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. These Mazda MX-5s at Spa.
Yeah, and it looks like we do have one person set for an interview, and it's the open class driver that we saw almost run out of fuel coming to the line here, Ray Lombardi. I mean, what happened there? I mean, you were battling with Jose for second there in the open class and ran out of fuel through the last couple of corners. I mean, what was that race like? It looked insane.
Yeah, it was really, really weird because I made a pit stop. My pit stop was bad. I actually underfueled, and then I had to fuel another 5 seconds, and it turned out that I actually still underfueled. So I had to save the last couple of laps, and I just didn't save enough. So in the last corner, I was just I was trying to clutch it, but then I lost control, and I almost gave up another spot because of that. But it was a really weird race all along.
Yeah, but it was pretty interesting for us to watch. I mean, I thought it happened in the last couple of corners, but where exactly did you run out of fuel there?
Well, basically, I ran out of fuel just over the line. I managed to, just puke it out a little bit. How do you call it? But it was in the last lap. I knew I was according to my pit stats, I was going to be underfueled. I wasn't going to make it, so I really had to just go high gear and just try to get to the end before Greg was going to pass me, because I saw I had about 10 seconds on him. And in the end, I wound up about 3 or 4 seconds ahead of him, just getting over the line. But I was just glad to be just to finish it. You've seen the last couple of races, I've had not the best of luck, you could say. So being able to finish is just something I'm really happy with.
Yeah, you did do a great job for yourself tonight. Congrats on the podium, man. Anybody you want to thank here?
Yeah, thank you guys for the awesome broadcast. I've been watching them back ever since I started. I only started a couple of races ago, but I've been really been enjoying it, watching them back. So thank you guys, and thanks to the guys in the Spec-5, because it's really fun to race there.
All right, well, I'm going to drag you back. Congrats on the podium, man, and we hope to see you up here again next week.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
And that was Ray Lombardi, your third place finisher for the open class. And now, Randall, I'll let you take it away with Joshua Soto. What a race.
Josh, congratulations on the win. Can you tell us a little bit about your race and what did you find the most exciting part was?
Oh man, like the whole thing. Yeah, it was it was really interesting. I ended up getting into first place and then lost it. And then tried to catch back up to try to catch back up to Rui and Ronnie. Yeah, that was the main strategy before I went into the pits. And I went to the pits, and it just ended up working.
Yeah, you had an exceptionally good pit stop and ended up with a 3.5 second gap over P2 after the pit stop. But it did sound like you were saving a little fuel at the end. Was that true?
Oh yeah, I was actually worried that I was going to run out of fuel. I actually started sputtering near the finish line, I think, or I think I started sputtering near the finish line. Oh yeah, yeah. I was really. Matter of fact, like the last lap, I was just in higher gears to just try to save as much fuel as possible. I thought I had enough, but the calculation just started going down after a couple of laps. So the main thing was just save fuel and keep the tires alive.
So 2 notes. First of all, I had to commend you on your save when you had your incident. Instead of trying to save the car, you just abandoned it and went into the grass. I think that was a smart move and saved your race. Also, I was really surprised to see that you still had your rear view mirror in the car. I figured you would have reached up and broken that off, trying to ignore those guys behind you.
Oh yeah. There, it was definitely a lot of pressure. I seen them coming up closer and being on older tires. The main thing is just stay focused and try to do the best you can.
Well, great race. Is there anybody you'd like to shout out?
I'd like to shout out the whole series, everybody that's involved. They always make for great racing. Jordy Fike, all the people who put the series, Greg Mack, Greg Brockway. I know I'm missing a lot of names. Also like to thank David Staub, helping me with the laps and stuff in the practice, and yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, and also you guys, you guys do a great job for the broadcast.
Well, we appreciate it, and it was good to finally see you in the interview room with a win. Hopefully we see you up here more. Good luck in the rest of the season. We'll see you next week at Spa.
Hey, thank you.
That was Josh Soto, your overall winner, and I'll hand it back to you, Alex.
Yeah, and since my mic was muted, so Randall, you went ahead and took away the next broadcast. I won't save you guys for doing that. So I mean, just some final thoughts from us. I mean, I thought that was a great race. I mean, we had the strategy play out. We had some incidents there from everybody, and we had just great racing overall. So I mean, just another great show from these guys.
Not a surprise. These guys are really the top of their game when it comes to driving this MX-5. These races are always entertaining, and VIR always makes for some really good racing.
Yeah, definitely an oldie but a goodie, as I would like to call it. The second track iRacing ever scanned. But that's going to be it for us here tonight, folks. My name is Alex Andersen. I have been joined in the booth by Randall McGrew with Adam Thompson in our virtual production truck. Have a good night, y'all.